Bracing for another vote on health care reform, the community in San Diego who says their health insurance lifeline is at risk.
We're just not going to have our schools be a place where students have to fear.
Creating a safe haven for all students. The California school leaders who are standing up for refugees and kids who are in the country illegally. Father comes home from wars, the new play set during the Civil War, but feels contemporary. How Intrepid Theater is using the play for community outreach. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A possibly fatal blow to the latest effort to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. Arizona Senator John McCain says he will not support the latest Republican proposal known as Graham Cassidy. He says a bill affecting so many lives deserves a bipartisan approach. It's the same argument McCain made the last time he voted against a bill to repeal Obamacare. The Senate is supposed to vote on Graham Cassidy next week. 3 no votes from Republicans would kill the bill. McCain was the third no vote last time. This time, Vice President Mike Pence is trying to put pressure on another one of those no votes, Maine Senator Susan Collins. Today, Pence met with Maine's governor, and both urged Collins to vote yes on Graham Cassidy.
But especially, we're encouraging today Senator Susan Collins to join us in this effort, to give the people of Maine, to give the government of Maine the resources and the flexibility to be able to craft solutions that will improve the lives and improve the health of the people of Maine.
Collins has said she's leaning against the bill. California faces drastic federal funding cuts under the repeal and replace measure. Among the hardest hit populations would be low-income seniors. San Diego Congressman Scott Peters held a town hall Q&A with a group of seniors to talk about their concerns.
Morning, everyone. How are you?
Hundreds of low-income seniors who come daily to the Serving Senior Center in downtown for meals and services also depend on Medicare and Medicaid, but the dual eligibility health insurance program that provides their lifeline is at risk. The seniors packed a dining hall to express their worries to Democratic Congressman Scott Peters. Peters says the GOP bill is being rushed through without expert analysis or a thorough discussion in the House of Representatives.
If this bill passes that the Senate's considering, Graham Cassidy, that means tens of billions of dollars of lost Medicaid money for California. And it's really going to hit this group of people really hard.
The group also shared concerns over the region's hepatitis A outbreak. The congressman says he has requested for the Centers for Disease Control to provide additional treatment programs and oversight. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
President Trump's controversial travel ban expires Sunday. Now he has to decide what happens next. The ban blocks visitors from 6 Muslim-majority countries. The Department of Homeland Security says it should be replaced with more targeted restrictions, including enhanced screening for certain countries. The current ban is still being challenged as unconstitutional. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear arguments in the case next month. The Trump administration is scrapping Obama-era guidance for investigating sexual assaults on college campuses. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos says those rules are unfairly skewed against the accused. Her department will come up with new rules, but they won't have much impact on California, which has its own standards for investigating such assaults. Both state and university systems say their own rules will stay in place. California schools are declaring themselves a safe haven for refugees and children who are in the state illegally. At the state capitol today, a panel of school superintendents and other education experts discussed how to make California students feel safer. They say there's an increased level of anxiety among students who are here illegally or whose parents are here illegally. They say they're afraid of being seized on campus. Today, panelists discussed how to reduce that anxiety with a promise not to share information about students with immigration officials.
We just don't want to become arms of ice. We're just not going to have our schools be a place where students have to fear, parents have to fear, they stay away, they get behind in their education, they lose hope. We want it to be a place of hope and optimism.
School leaders also discussed a planned update of public school textbooks later this year. The new books would reflect history of a wider range of ethnic and religious groups. The city of San Diego vaccinated more people downtown today in an effort to contain the hepatitis A outbreak. On Thursday, nearly 900 people were vaccinated. Mayor Kevin Faulconer talked to KPBS Midday Edition today about the city's efforts to contain the virus that has killed 16 people and sickened more than 400.
I can say unequivocally, our conversations are all about how we getting people the help that they need right now, not looking backward, really bringing everybody together in an unprecedented fashion.
The mayor says the city is preparing to install 8 more public restrooms and about 20 more hand washing stations. The San Diego Union Tribune reported Thursday that grand jury reports dating back to 2000 warned that the lack of restrooms downtown could lead to a liability for the city if unsanitary conditions led to the outbreak of the illness. San Marcos residents are grappling with major changes proposed for the future of their urban core. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John says new proposals call for fewer shops and retail and denser housing.
San Marcos held a public workshop this week to revision its Creek District. It's an underdeveloped area along the San Marcos Creek. It was planned 10 years ago as a dynamic, mixed-use urban center, but the recession hit and the plan made back in 2007 never materialized. Some affordable housing has gone up, but now the city is faced with a totally new reality. Developers are not interested in building plans that mix shops, offices, and housing, so you could walk to the shops and to work. In the original 2007 plan, all these pink areas in the upper map were a dynamic downtown with shops and restaurants. Now, in the lower 2017 map, the pink commercial areas have shrunk dramatically, and the area open to housing, the yellow area, has expanded dramatically. In San Marcos, the amount of shopping space in the Creek District has been cut by about 80%, while the amount of office space has shrunk even more, by more than 90%. It's partly because we do so much shopping online now that shopping centers just don't pencil out anymore. Instead, there is a big demand for more housing. This kind of change is happening all over the county. A decision on the new San Marcos Creek District plan will come next year after more community input. Allison St. John, KPBS News.
Caltrans has been warning us about this for weeks, and the time is finally here. The roads to the San Ysidro border crossing will be closed early tomorrow morning and stay closed until noon Monday. It's because of construction work at the port of entry. The closure will begin at 3 a.m. The 5 and 805 freeways will be closed at the 905. There will be detours to get to homes and businesses between the 905 and the port of entry. Transit will also be available, and the pedestrian entries at San Ysidro will be open. The Otay Mesa crossing will also be open, but officials expect a big traffic jam there because it's a smaller facility. One leader in San Ysidro said, "Don't even think about going across in a vehicle." The search continues in Mexico for victims of this week's 7.1 earthquake. Today, rescue dogs were used to comb through the rubble of a school. The official death toll in Wednesday's quake is now close to 300, and more than 3,000 federal police have been mobilized in the search and rescue effort. Relief supplies are on the way from San Diego to Mexico, courtesy of the U.S. Navy. Supply specialists here put together more than 50,000 pounds of supplies. One officer says it's proof the Navy isn't just a fighting force, but also an ambassador of goodwill. On the heels of Mexico's deadly earthquake, state officials are urging residents to be as prepared as possible, and that includes buying earthquake insurance.
In the next 30 years, it's almost certain that a magnitude 6.7 or greater will occur somewhere in California. And even more importantly, the likelihood of a magnitude 8 or greater earthquake in California increased by 50%. And so those very, very large earthquakes will impact larger areas of the state, and of course they last longer, and so the damage is significantly higher.
Earthquake insurance sales are on the rise. Officials say the number of California homeowners with policies is close to 1 million. It can be hit or miss with immunotherapy. It can make the disease much worse for some patients. As AP reporter Cindy Sharp explains, gene tests now help reveal who's most likely to benefit from this therapy.
Scans from these massive MRI and CT machines show just how little cancer, if any, Dennis Lyons still has.
I have a very rare cancer called basal cell carcinoma metastatic.
Skin cancer ravaged Lyon's organs. Chemotherapy didn't work, but Lyon responded well to the hottest thing in cancer care, immunotherapy.
Immunotherapy is a new field, and the basic thread that runs throughout the different approaches in immunotherapy is the idea of reactivating a patient's own immune system.
One approach includes drugs called checkpoint inhibitors. They remove the chemical cloak around a tumor that hides it from the immune system.
In many ways, it's the patients with the worst tumors that do the best.
Genetic testing is helping predict who benefits from immunotherapy. Doctors found nearly 24 mutations in Lyon's tumors that suggested the checkpoint inhibitor Opdivo would help. The more mutations a cancer tumor has, the more ways the reactivated immune system could find and attack the abnormal tissue.
And in my case, we haven't had new tumors in months and months. And everything that I have had has shrunk to the point of being non-existent in some cases.
But checkpoint inhibitors only work in about a quarter of patients.
And I'm going to underline the word some patients because it's still not enough patients. Unfortunately, the minority of patients respond to immunotherapy.
Those same drugs have in fact sped up cancer growth in others. It's a caution against overenthusiasm about immunotherapy, which is expensive, has side effects, and should be considered carefully.
Take the brakes off that the cancer has put in place, and it goes after the cancer, well, that means it might go after something else as well.
Scientists at the University of California, San Francisco are studying tumor samples to devise a roadmap to explain which immune system features spell success or failure. Lyon says he was so far gone he'd try anything.
And with cancer, that is your only hope.
In this case, immunotherapy was a Hail Mary pass that worked. Cindy Sharp, Associated Press.
Hey tourists, come for the beautiful beaches, but avoid the hepatitis outbreak. Want to live in a tiny home? Owners say it's harder than you'd think. Plus, a nasty legal fight freezes charity funds from the late philanthropist Conrad Previs. That and more on the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
It's that time of year again. The Miramar Air Show is now underway. This year's event honors Vietnam veterans and includes performances by the Navy's Blue Angels. It runs through Sunday at Marine Corps Air Station, Miramar. A warm, sunny start for the first day of fall, and it looks like seasonal autumn conditions for the next few days. Jeff Cornish has more in tonight's forecast.
Happy fall. The autumn season is underway. It started at 1:02 Pacific time this afternoon, and we're looking good. It certainly feels more like fall out there in a big way with cooler than average weather that'll be with us for most of the next 4 or 5 days. We'll have a hint of the Santa Ana winds on Sunday with that downsloping breeze drying us out, promoting lots of weekend sunshine. We're looking good out there. Satellite radar, kind of a snoozer right now, not much to see locally, so as we pull things out, you'll see most of the action well off to the north. There are some showers, a swarm of rain showers across areas like Nevada. They're running cool there as well, and if you look closely, you might even pick out a couple of those different colors when we have a little bit of a rain-snow mix in some of the higher elevations of the interior west. So we're getting there with the seasons changing. Tonight we'll fall down to 63 with some clouds out there. And tonight, places off to the east, much cooler as well. Mount Laguna down to 40, Borrego Springs 59, Campo down to a cool 42. Borderline chilly for some. And to Ramona, 51 degrees, Oceanside 55. And the big pocket of cool air is setting up shop right across our area. It's a big dip in the jet stream. You can see some rain showers, even some snow out there in some of those interior western mountain locations. For us, though, it's just cool and, for the most part, a dry time. Lots of sunshine. We're looking good on Saturday, a nice Saturday in the early autumn to get out there and enjoy the changing weather. Low to mid-70s for most near the coast. 58 in Mount Laguna. That's cool. Borrego Springs, 85. It's all relative. That's nice and cool for Borrego Springs. Early next week will remain dry with a dip in the jet stream still around. It'll lose a little bit of its punch, a little less amplified, if you will, and therefore will begin to warm up ever so slightly from the mid-70s into the low to mid-80s for the coast by Tuesday. Good deal of sunshine, though. A little breezy at times. Inland areas on the road from the mid-70s on a cool Saturday to the low 90s by Monday and Tuesday. And mountainous terrain into the upper 50s on Saturday, near 70 then come Tuesday. And into the deserts, we're looking at a little bit of a rebound as well from the mid-80s back to the mid-90s by the time we reach Tuesday. Upper 90s then on Wednesday, so there's still a little heat out there. I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Taking a moment to remember the police shooting death of Alfred Alongo. Today we hosted a KPBS listening post in El Cajon. We invited people to share their stories about Alfred Alongo and their thoughts about the state of police and community relations. Our coverage continues Wednesday. We'll have a live midday show at El Cajon City Hall, followed by live coverage on KPBS Evening Edition. Coming up tonight on PBS NewsHour, Not in My House. Farmers living near the U.S.-Mexico border are throwing their support behind President Trump's proposed border wall.
There isn't enough Border Patrol to respond to the traffic that's coming through it. You know, this isn't a humanitarian deal anymore. You know, this is securing the border. And you have to act like it's a military exercise.
In starting over after a disaster, a look at some must-read books for the fall season. That's tonight on PBS NewsHour, starting at 7, right here on KPBS. He wears braces, and he's tall enough to play shooting guard in the NBA. Talent scouts say the sky may be the limit for one 13-year-old basketball player. AP reporter Mike Householder follows his hoop journey.
Imani Bates, all 6'7" of him, plans to play in the NBA. Before he can take on the LeBron Jameses and Kevin Durants of the world, however, he'll need to finish middle school.
I'm young right now, and I have a whole bunch of attention, but I handle it well, so that's the hardest thing for me right now.
Imani is an 8th grader in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where he tries to be a kid despite his imposing height, and reputation as one of, if not the best 13-year-old basketball players in the U.S.
A lot of kids follow him around, and even some of the adults, that's Imani Bates.
As they did this summer at a tournament of top players near Indianapolis.
I've never had a mom want to take a picture with who we just lost to, but we'll make an exception for a kid like that for sure.
Imani's 13 and under team dominated the competition. No surprise to their coach, Imani's father, a former pro player overseas.
I don't allow him to be Imani Bates on my team. Other coaches, well, I got Imani. So I'm going to let him get away with something that I won't let another kid get away with. That's not happening with me.
Father and son often do one-on-one practices. The 155-pounder with the size 14 shoes and mouthful of braces, trying to get stronger, improve his game, and drown out all the talk surrounding him.
I don't really pay attention to it because if I pay attention to it, it's just going to get to my head, and I don't want that to get to my head. I just want to play basketball.
A phenom trying to keep his head down while shooting for the stars. Mike Householder, Associated Press, Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Get ready to rock. One of the biggest events of the season is coming to San Diego tonight. Arts calendar editor Nina Guerin gives us details.
Rock band U2 brings its highly anticipated Joshua Tree Tour 2017 to San Diego tonight. The band will be performing all the songs from its 1987 release, The Joshua Tree, the album with iconic songs like I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For and Streets Have No Name. The tour started in May and is getting rave reviews from fans across the country. U2 has always been a political band, So expect some social commentary at tonight's event. And make sure to get there early because indie favorite Beck is opening the show. Over in downtown we have Billy Elliot, the story of a young boy who loved ballet. The musical is set in a poor English mining town where a boy dancing ballet wasn't received very well. The musical, though, is very well received, having played in London for more than 10 years and winning a Tony for Best Musical. This version is put on by San Diego Musical Theater and California Ballet and stars 10-year-old Charlie Garton as Billy. Finally, we have a film festival for people who love dance. The 40 North Film Festival brings 3 days of dance movies, immersive art shows, and a panel discussion. If you're wondering what a dance film is, it can be anything from a short documentary to a stylized story using dance instead of dialogue. 40 North has a week's worth of events happening throughout San Diego. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Stay up to date on the San Diego art scene with the KPBS Arts Calendar and our arts newsletter. Sign up at kpbs.org/newsletter. Intrepid Theater's new production, Father Comes Home from Wars, is set during the Civil War, but it has a contemporary feel. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando spoke with the creative team behind the play to find out how they make history come to life.
Dark is the night, long is the day. Dark is the night, long is the day.
Suzanne Laurie Parks' play, Father Comes Home from the Wars, is set in the Civil War, but it occupies a space that feels both period and contemporary, timeless and rooted in history.
It's really accessible. It's really exciting. It's set in the Civil War, but you could have just as easily picked these people up off this street today and told their story.
Christy Yael Cox directs Parks' play, which follows the story of Hero as he goes on a journey that's both epic and deeply personal.
You won't be one of the dead, son. You'll do your service, and here you are coming home. I can see it, walking bravely.
Antonio T.J. Johnson co-directs the play and takes on the role of the oldest old man. He says that despite the setting, the play really isn't about slavery.
I think that's what the oldest old man is doing. I think he's trying to leave this lesson, this book, this thing that they can go by, you know, this road map that has nothing to do with their circumstances but who they are. You know, even if you are a slave, you have to be this person, and even if, you know, and if you give somebody your word and things like that. Even though you're owned by another man, your word is your bond. It's part of your record. Words and deeds both. It's easier for me to think contemporary when I think about the play than it is for me to think about what was going on back there in slavery. It's easier for me to think about the inequities of what's going on right now.
That makes Parks' play more resonant for a modern audience.
She really is trying to untangle these issues in a way that makes us look at not just what happened in the past, but what is happening right now today. And she's really opening all of that up. And she's not answering all the questions, but she is really asking the right questions.
It's a piece that forces you to ask questions. That's what makes it amazing.
Reckless Watson plays Hero.
It allows you to think on why are things still the same way? How can I make change? How can I be the different factor here? And it allows you to actually ask those questions. Why are things this way?
Tamara McMillan plays Penny, Hero's well-grounded wife. She was attracted to how the play made it easy to relate to characters from more than 150 years ago.
But also, it was sweet. Even though it was terrifying, it was also sweet that you was not going to raise a hand against your own cause, that you was not going to help out Master, that you was going to stand up, that you was going to stay home.
Immediately, I knew that it was very relatable to the political times of right now. And I was eager. I was ready to dive in and get to the meat of the characters and their relationships and what they want. What they wanted then is not so much different than what we want now, I think.
McMillan says Parks uses the past to hold up a mirror to the present, and Yael Cox agrees.
And she's done this very intentionally this sort of mashup of modern and period, because it does allow us to connect all of these issues and all of those thoughts to right now.
She says the gift for the audience is to be able to look at the past through the lens of today. And that's a great way to make history come alive. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Intrepid Theater's Father Comes Home from Wars runs through October 22nd at the Horton Grand Theater. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. And we leave you with an NPR Tiny Desk concert by Snail Mail. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.